Britain's industrial past into its future. The site of a vast new battery factory for Tata, the Indian owner of Jaguar Land Rover.
It's good news that it looks like a deal has been done with Jaguar Land Rover to have battery manufacturing in the UK. The UK exports lots of cars into the European Union. We're only going to be allowed to continue to do that at the current price if all the bits come from either Europe or the UK. And batteries in an electric vehicle are the biggest, most important part, and so we want to make them here at home in the UK.
JLR is one of Britain's biggest car makers and a big employer. But if you're going to make electric cars, you need batteries. And up until now, JLR had left everyone guessing about where its factory would be, with speculation over a site in Spain as well as Somerset. For JLR's suppliers, like this precision parts manufacturer in the Midlands, decisions like this are crucial, and not just for the car company itself.
Approximately 11% of all business R&D is from the automotive sector. There's over 2,500 supply chain companies, 800,000 people employed in the automotive sector. It's important for UK PLC. I think we need to think of at least 2 or 3 gigafactories in the UK.
But Britain is coming from a near standing start. Right now, it produces less than 2 gigawatt-hours of batteries, all from Nissan's Sunderland site, far below most European countries and a long way behind America or, that bar on the left-hand side, China. This news comes as a massive relief for the government, the Prime Minister and the Treasury, but there will be questions. For instance, how much precisely is it costing to persuade Tata to choose the UK? I'm hearing around £500 million. Will that money be available to other motor manufacturers? Where is it actually going to come from? And then on top of that, will Tata be using Chinese technology in its factories? And what does the government think about that? But with the rest of the world racing to build these battery production lines and the UK far behind in the race, and with thousands of jobs on the line, such questions are taking a back seat. And with the government desperate for good news, expect to hear a lot more about the little cells which will power the energy transition. Ed Conway, Sky News.
Our political correspondent Liz Bates is at the Department for Business and Trade tonight, and building gigafactories is something which unites pretty much everyone at Westminster, Liz. But some comment on the timing of this expected announcement.
Well, certainly. I mean, first of all, this is a huge win for the Prime Minister and for his party. No doubt he'll be making the most of that when we get what we expect will be the formal announcement from him tomorrow. But yes, questions about the timing, I think, because we are heading into 3 hugely significant by-elections, and one of them is about half an hour down the road from where this new factory will be established, Somerton and Frome. So people are asking the question, has the timing been sort of massaged by the government? Well, I've spoken to people in government who are familiar with this deal. They say it was being worked on 2 years ago. It's just simply not possible to get the timing this precise. I suppose the other question is, at this stage, will it make any difference? And I've spoken to Conservatives and Liberal Democrats who are contesting that by-election, who have both said to me this evening, probably not. It's a little bit late in the day. But look, more broadly, in terms of the politics, the Prime Minister, Rishi Sunak, will obviously be making the most of it. It will give Conservative MPs something to talk about, to celebrate, if you like, going into what will be a very tricky few days with these by-elections coming up.
Yes, and plenty of coverage on those. Liz, thank you. Last night on Sky News at 10, we reported from inside Myanmar, showing how civilian communities are being targeted daily for attack. Tonight, we have the untold story of a secret hospital hidden in the jungle there, which the military junta is trying to find and destroy. Well, Sky News was given access to the hospital inside Myanmar on condition that its location remains secret. And it's there that Sky's chief correspondent Stuart Ramsey saw the successful effort being made to save lives. A warning, his report shows a patient during an operation.
He's just 17 and he's badly injured. By torchlight, doctors and nurses start working on his wounds. He'd been sleeping in a monastery when it was attacked by the Myanmar government military. A mortar round peppered his body with shrapnel. This secret hospital is his only chance of survival. The lights are off for safety, but they have to turn them on An operation is a certainty now. The families of other terribly injured patients watch on as the latest victim is being dealt with. Her boy went through this just a few days ago. We can't say where it is or its name, but it is the last trauma hospital still functioning here. And what we witnessed over the coming hours is a quite extraordinary display of medicine in an extreme environment, made worse by the threat of attack in this bloody civil war.
Heavy weapon injury and hip left injury. It may be the bone fracture and including vascular injury.
So what will you do now?
And now we have to do the operation fasciotomy. And if there is a vascular injury, we will be vascular rappel.
Stabilised, the patient is wheeled through the darkness to the operating theatre. It's like a different world inside. They've built this into the side of a mountain, hidden beneath the trees. The hospital's 2 surgeons prepare to operate. Doctors, nurses, trainees stand by. It's the middle of the night now, and the operation is at a critical point. And then this. The generator fails. Monitor alarms fill the silence. But the surgery goes on by torchlight. They never stop working. And finally, the power returns. The operation continues, but by now, they're running out of blood. She's the anaesthetist. She's shouting that they need blood right now. A frantic search for donors amongst security guards and the families of patients begins. The 17-year-old needs 3 litres of blood. This is life and death stuff.
Well, it was getting pretty touch and go for a while now. The blood has arrived. We've just seen the bit of shrapnel that was taken out of this young man's leg. It's about this long. Now they're drilling into it to put the leg back together. It's been quite remarkable. We've had lights going on and off and power dying. And then that lack of blood, but amazing stuff. They still keep going, keep going, keep going.
The surgery will continue for another few hours. The boy survives. The founder of the hospital, Dr. Pong, cooks eggs for the theatre team. He knows they'll be exhausted when they're finished. Apart from the operating theatre, there are no lights on. There's danger from above. It's a constant.
Well, the camp's been plunged into darkness. There's a drone in the skies. This hospital knows that it's on a list that are being pinpointed or trying to be pinpointed by the Myanmar Air Force with bomb strikes from the skies, obviously. But some patients have just arrived. from the front line. So this is what it's like here in the hospital, where they just have to cut all power and try to stay as quiet as possible.
In the morning, I returned to the ward to speak to the family who had watched on as last night's 17-year-old patient was dealt with. Rosa's son, 21-year-old John Paul, is a resistance fighter. He was hit in the head with shrapnel and has survived brain surgery. She praised the work of the hospital staff who saved his life.
I am so grateful to these doctors. They are so good. I'm amazed they saved his life.
A lot of the young men and young women involved in this revolution are paying a high price, like your son. Are you proud of him, and do you still support everything that's happening?
I'm very proud of him.
And will you keep...
As she tells me she is proud, her injured boy is overcome. He can barely move or talk, but he can hear her. We leave them as she consoles him. His survival is a miracle, and they perform miracles here every day. Stuart Ramsey, Sky News, Myanmar.
Our chief correspondent reporting from inside Myanmar, and tomorrow we'll see the people made homeless by this hidden war. Now, it's not just the people of southern Europe who are wilting in the face of a prolonged extreme heat wave. Today we saw how the region's most famous product, the grapes which make wine, are also shrivelling on the vine. Well, this map shows global temperatures today. The darker the red, the higher the temperature. The UN Weather Agency says temperatures in Europe this week could break the 48.8 degrees Celsius record set in Sicily 2 years ago. Temperatures hit 45 degrees on the Italian island of Sardinia today, the hottest day of the year so far. Our climate change correspondent Hannah Thomas-Peter reports from there.
This plant is dead. No,
Alessandro Mancini's Sardinian vineyard is struggling in this relentless heat wave. How many plants do you think you're going to lose?
I think this year 1,000.
He is used to hot summers, but not like this.
The problem is that the time, the long time that the big temperature are.
To protect themselves, the vineyard workers start early and finish by 11. We do this job because we are used to it, says Patrizia Lacconi, but it's quite challenging. The only way to work in this heat, says Roberto Puliga, is to get used to enduring it. In the nearby village of Posada, life is on pause. These temperatures, bad for business. Normally there are a lot of people and tourists around, says Adriana de Leda, but in this heat there is no one. People prefer to go to the sea. Further inland, in the town of Nuoro, it gets hotter still. Here towards the centre of the island, the temperatures are really building, and it's just unpleasant to be outside. It's not just the heat coming down from the sun, but it's radiating off the ground too. And the air is thick and humid and difficult to breathe. At the town's hospital, heat waves are not good news. The doctors here are readying themselves. We're expecting more patients in emergency and intensive care, says Dr. Marco Falci. More people will be in hospital because of the heat wave, such as the ones suffering from heat exposure or already suffering from chronic diseases worsened by the high temperatures. This has been Sardinia's hottest day this summer. and there is little relief on the horizon. These conditions expected to last until the weekend and possibly beyond. Hannah Thomas-Peter, Sky News in Sardinia.
Well, in Greece, the country's weather service is warning that a second heatwave could begin on Thursday. Some of the fires in the region around the country's capital are moving closer, as our international correspondent Alex Rossi reports from Athens.
The wildfires near Athens have kept burning now for a second day after intensifying through the night. And the fires are edging closer to the capital, with strong winds fanning the flames through the arid landscape. Emergency services have, though, managed to dampen the fires south of the city.
47 forest fires broke out in the last 24 hours. Most of them were treated immediately at their initial stage.
Thousands of people have already been evacuated from 6 seaside communities. In this one, the fires had spread dangerously close. But this wildfire to the northwest has continued to sweep through forest lands. It's bone dry after days of searing heat.
We saved what we could. We took what we could, our animals and nothing else. What else can we take at this moment? We can't do anything.
Wildfires have always been a problem here, but the risk remains extreme. And the boiling weather that's caused these fires does not look like it will cool anytime soon. Greece's meteorological service is warning the nation is days away from a second heat wave, with temperatures set to rise to 45 degrees. This country then remains on high alert as it braces for hotter, drier conditions and the risk to life that comes with it. Alex Rossi, Sky News, Athens.
Well, you would be forgiven for thinking, seeing some of the pictures from southern Europe, that you might wish you were there. But the impact of these extreme temperatures on the body can be serious, as our science correspondent Thomas Moore found out.
So I'm just going to pop this on. Yep.
I'm wired up and covered in sensors. Guinea pig 16 in a study of how heat impacts the human body.
Feel the heat. It's like opening the door of an oven.
This chamber at the University of Roehampton in West London is heated to 50 degrees, just above the European temperature record. Over the next hour, my heart rate rises as it tries to compensate for a drop in my blood pressure. I'm resting, but my body temperature just keeps on rising.
This is all, again, linked to just trying to keep yourself cool. So if you've ever looked down on that hot day and you've seen that hot red flushed
slightly
skin,
red there.
So our blood vessels are dilating, widening to try and increase blood flow to the surface of the skin, try and increase the amount of heat that we can lose.
Then it's on to an exercise bike to simulate activity in a heatwave. This time the numbers rise quickly and millions of sweat glands try to cool me down. It doesn't work. My body temperature soars.
Oh, that's nice. That was pretty hellish. An hour and 3/4 in the heated chamber, 15 minutes on the bike. My core temperature has gone up 1.5 degrees. Now, in normal times, a doctor would say that temperature, I had a fever.
Heat is a silent killer. People rarely drop dead in the street, but it shows up in excess deaths, more than 61,000 in Europe last summer. And it's the very young and old who struggle if they can't keep cool.
Proteins start to fall apart and stop working so well. Nervous impulses through the body don't work so well, and biochemical reactions become suboptimal. So the organs in the body start to function less well, and if that happens too much, then it can be fatal.
My time in the extreme heat was short, but people in southern Europe have been living it for days, and their bodies will be severely tested. Thomas Moore, Sky News in West London.
As many as 60,000 girls in England are vulnerable to serious violence, often in gangs. A new report will warn tomorrow. One former gang member told us that girls face the extra risk of sexual abuse and exploitation, but most prevention measures are aimed at boys. Our home editor, Jason Farrell, has this report.
Quite badly physically. Alia sold drugs for a gang and now supports other women. Support she didn't get until she was in prison.
The most common risk that is posed towards boys and young men is violence, gang violence and stuff, whereas for girls it's not only physical violence, it's sexual abuse and exploitation, it's emotional abuse, it's mental abuse. And a lot of professionals within our field, you know, they put us in under that bracket, that box that even I was in, is complex needs. And essentially what that means is that, you know, we've endured so much trauma or had so many traumatic experiences that they don't know what to do with us. They don't know where to start.
Hello. What's going on? Okay. Good job.
A report by the Commission on Young Lives and Manchester Metropolitan University suggests this is a hidden problem. And here at Southgate School in Barnet, they're getting a preview of a film which hopes to raise its profile. The film Save Me will be launched in schools next term. Its message that communities need to be more alert to vulnerable teenagers.
Stay where you are!
The central character, a girl in a gang.
Oh my God, Dane. I love it.
I remember growing up and seeing young girls that were, you know, quite vulnerable and dressing slightly older, or, you know, getting attention from older boys that were, you know, able to give them money or give them attention or drive them around or whatever.
The Met Police estimate that a third of those affected by gangs are female, despite making up only 0.2% of London's known gang-associated people. Aged 16, Asha lost her father and, left to fend for herself, became a drugs runner.
I was what people refer to as county lines. So quite a lot of my childhood entailed me getting up by myself, going, catching a train for many hours, going to secluded areas.
The charity Red Thread, which reaches out to vulnerable youths presenting at hospitals, says 38% are female. Asha says girls often face specific risks.
Number one, women are more emotional, they're more vulnerable. Because of us being women and our bodily parts, we can conceal things much more easily.
Is it at all dangerous doing that?
Very dangerous.
Putting drugs
it's
internally?
Very dangerous. It's you can put your life at risk.
Yeah.
This new report says as many as 60,000 girls in England are vulnerable to serious violence.
We want the support services there to help them. Hardly anything at the moment is there available for girls. Often they have to get into a terrible place, sometimes even prison, to be able to get help. And we want there to be girls workers there because we know that is the best way.
Female youth workers.
Yeah.
Girls in gangs may be harder to reach, but are quite often more at risk. Jason Farrell, Sky News.
A barge for 500 asylum seekers has arrived in Dorset. Downing Street says the vessel will start being used to house people from later this month. But Sky News has learned the government couldn't find anywhere to dock 2 cruise ships, which it plans to use to house an additional 1,000 asylum seekers. A woman who was jailed for illegally having an abortion while between 32 and 34 weeks pregnant will be released from prison after the Court of Appeal reduced her sentence. Carla Foster had been jailed for over 2 years, but her sentence was reduced to 14 months suspended. The BBC's Director General says the corporation has been in touch with the family of the young person at the centre of allegations against the news presenter Hugh Edwards. Tim Davie also told a House of Lords committee that he was confident about the BBC's overall whistle-blowing process. The former Manchester United star and Wales manager Ryan Giggs is looking forward to rebuilding his life, his lawyer told a court today, after a retrial over domestic violence allegations against him was abandoned. Greg Mylan reports now from Manchester Crown Court.
Now, this is Ryan Giggs on as a sub, and according to Ferguson, the most outstanding 17-year-old that he's ever seen.
Ryan Giggs went from teenage footballing prodigy to the most decorated player of the Premier League era, but a man also accused of being a violent domestic abuser. He'd always denied those charges, and last year a jury was unable to reach a verdict. He said he'd never been violent to his former girlfriend, Kate Greville. They had their ups and downs, he said, and he admitted to being unfaithful. But just days before his retrial, he was formally found not guilty.
Peter Wright KC told the judge that giving evidence in that first trial had taken its toll on Kate Greville and that she was now unwilling to give evidence again. He said the welfare of complainants had to be at the centre of the decision-making process, and for that reason they wouldn't be proceeding with this prosecution. It was, he said, a decision that had not been taken lightly.
Chris Dorr KC told the court Mr Giggs is deeply relieved. He's always been innocent of these charges. He looks forward to rebuilding his life and career as an innocent man. He'd stepped down as Wales manager before his trial, before his private life was laid bare. Sources say he wants to return to football.
Every time he steps onto the pitch, walks towards the dugout, there are going to be a lot of other headlines that follow him onto the pitch over and above the fixture that is in front of him. So yes, I think it is a matter of pause and deliberation of many clubs, although he has been found innocent and there is a way back for him.
Having been at every day of his trial, he wasn't in court for the end. Tonight he told Sky News he was still processing it all, but had no comment. A man declared innocent and a world wondering what his future holds. Greg Milam, Sky News, Manchester.
Well, now, finally, he bears more than a resemblance to Tom Hanks's character in the film Castaway. But while he famously had a volleyball as his companion on his desert island, Tim Shaddock had a dog called Bella. Together, they survived 3 months adrift in the Pacific. And today, Tim said he was just grateful to be alive. Sabah Chowdhury has this report.
Tim Shaddock says he's grateful to be alive. The 54-year-old Australian sailor and dog Bella were castaways, stuck at sea for 3 months, with nothing but raw fish and rainwater to get them by.
To the captain and this fishing company that saved my life, I mean, what do you say? I'm just so grateful. I'm alive and I really didn't think I'd make it, you know. So thank you so much.
His voyage started from La Paz in Mexico, setting sail to French Polynesia, almost 4,000 miles away. But on the journey, disaster struck. A savage storm battered his boat, and with it took all forms of communication from the outside world. He thought he was going to die. But everything changed when a helicopter, by complete chance, spotted his boat and came to his rescue in the nick of time.
The health was pretty bad for a while. I was pretty hungry and I didn't think I'd make it through the storm, but now I'm really doing good. Thank you.
And when asked about Bella,
she's amazing. Like I mean, yeah, that dog is something else, you know. I'm a bit biased.
For now, the focus is on recovery, spending time with family, but most importantly, getting a shave and a haircut. Sabah Chowdhury, Sky News.
Amazing story. Well, that was Sky News at 10. Coming up, we'll take a first look at tomorrow's newspapers in the press preview, including this story on the front page of the Daily Mail, which says a top bank lied over a ban on Nigel Farage. Plenty more on that and other stories to come. Tonight we're joined here in the studio by the journalist and broadcaster Jenny Kleeman and the broadcaster and commentator Ali Mirage. Back in just a moment. Well, this is Sky News. In just a moment, the press preview, a first look at what is on the front pages. First, though, a reminder of our top stories this evening. Jaguar Land Rover is expected to announce plans to build a new electric battery factory in the UK, creating thousands of jobs. Britain's biggest car maker is set to confirm that Somerset has been picked over Spain, but the scale of government subsidy to win the plant is yet to be confirmed. Sky News has seen a secret hospital in the jungle in Myanmar where staff treat those on the front line of the country's civil war. Despite the constant threat of attack, medics are determined to save those injured in the fighting. And firefighters in Greece have been tackling wildfires as heatwaves cause disruption in areas around the world. Extra crews are being sent from other European countries to help battle the blazes. Hello there, you are watching the press preview, a first look at what is on the front pages. Time then to see what is making the headlines with the journalist and broadcaster Jenny Kleeman and the broadcaster and commentator Ali Maraj. Welcome to both of you. So, as ever, let's start with the front pages. Financial Times leading with the news that Tata, the parent company of Jaguar Land Rover, is planning to build a new electric car battery factory in the UK. Burning up, that is the front of the Mirror, which pictures the rescue of a small child from the intense heatwave sweeping Europe. The Express claims an exclusive with Rishi Sunak telling the paper that illegal migrants will face the toughest ever laws to stop them coming to the UK. Another exclusive in The Guardian, which reports that 28,000 people have so far been convicted in court for breaching the COVID-19 lockdown rules. The Metro reports that a mother who was given access to an abortion pill after lying about the term of her pregnancy is being released from jail after having her sentence halved by the Court of Appeal. The Telegraph tells us that Coutts Bank says it closed down Nigel Farage's account with them because of his comments on Brexit, which it says do not align with the company's values. Daily Mail, same story, says the bank has been accused of lying after originally saying it was because Mr Farage wasn't wealthy enough anymore. And the Star leads with Hugh Grant's role at an Oompa Loompa in the new Willy Wonka film, which has angered actors with real dwarfism. Well, a reminder, by scanning the QR code you'll see on screen during the programme, you can check out those front pages while you watch us. But let's head right now to our guests, Jenny and Ali. Welcome to both of you. And Ali, why don't you kick off with The Guardian, one of the papers that goes with migration, you know, this whopping barge which will house just over 500 migrants. That's the plan.
Well, this is the Bibi Stockholm. I think it is. It looks like the Bibi Stockholm, which is going to be housing 506 migrants. It looks like a couple of the ships have had to be sent back because there's nowhere to dock them. And the UN is basically saying that this is actually going to lead to adverse consequences for migrants. The problem with this whole issue is that we have had 45,000 people cross the channel last year, a lot of them putting their lives at risk, paying unscrupulous people smugglers $9 grand a pop for the pleasure of putting their lives at risk to cross the channel. We know that only months ago there were 27 people that lost their lives, sadly. We saw that also happen off the coast of Turkey not so long ago as well. So there are issues around this. People talk about putting safe and legal routes in place. The problem is there are so many people who want to come to the country that even if we have safe and legal routes, which is a valid point to make, there's going to have to be a cap. 13,000 have already crossed this year. This is showing no signs of abating, and Rishi Sunak is now playing hardball. They've finally got their illegal migration bill through the Lords after ping-pong going on for weeks.
Yeah, ping-pong, you know, Lords aggrieved by some of the measures, certainly. But let's take a look at this. You know, the local communities are saying they're not being told, which is part of the cruise ship problem. You know, how do you have GP services? You know, where are the extra ancillary services for those people who are often, if they've come from conflict, traumatised, as well as possibly, you know, suffering physical illness as well? So is there a sense of not bringing communities along with them? Or is it that the anger that some people are seeing having this parked in Dorset is why Rishi Sunak is speaking out in papers like the Daily Express here? He obviously thinks it's a vote winner.
This barge is a floating symbol of the government's desire to be seen to be doing something. And the idea that this barge is going to deter people who are prepared to risk their lives on small boats, that one large boat is going to frighten people, is just completely ridiculous. And their own research bears this out. I mean, this is one of the details that came out today, that there is no evidence that the illegal migration bill is actually deterring people from making crossings at the moment. But it's a huge victory for the Prime Minister and the Home Secretary. It's one of his 5 pledges is to enact laws to stop the boats. So it's not to stop the boats, it's to enact laws to stop the boats.
So that's a tick as far as he's concerned.
So that is a tick as far as he's concerned. But whether or not it will stop the boats is completely another matter. If he was really serious about stopping these boats, there are a lot of other things that he could do where there wouldn't be a physical symbol of it. He could provide safe routes of passage for people claiming asylum, because we know the Refugee Council says that 80% of those who cross in these small boats do go on to win asylum. They have legitimate grounds to seek asylum. He could pour enormous amounts of money into trying to cooperate with our European neighbours and stop the people smugglers. I mean, we have this law now that says that the Home Secretary has the right to deport people who make this boat crossing, but we don't know where to deport them to, because we can't deport them to Rwanda. That plan is mired in the courts. We can't send them back to the EU because we've opted out of that agreement with Brexit. So it's a big mess. It's gesture politics. It's a symbol of being able to do something. And if he really wanted to solve the problem, there's a lot more that he could do, but he wouldn't be able to tick a box or point to a picture of a barge, which is going to appeal to a particular constituency of voters.
Yes, some might say we're paying the French already quite a lot of money. But let's take a look at the politics of this. We've got 3 by-elections later on this week. You know, they must be doing focus groups, surely, because they want us to see how tough they are, or that headline, the PM wants, people to see how tough he is. You know, will they be seeing focus groups that actually, they're sitting there thinking, people genuinely want to stop the traffic of people across the Channel?
Which I think a lot of people in this country do, including myself, because I think that the only people benefiting from this are people smugglers. There are genuine asylum seekers who are fleeing for their lives, and this country has had a very long and distinguished history of supporting people in genuine need. But the Home Secretary said at the party conference last year that she dreamt of sending people to Rwanda. It's not going to happen. No one's going to go on a plane to Rwanda before the next election. Highly unlikely. So the problem for the party is, and this has been an issue going back years, that for 13 years they've been in government and not got a grip of this issue, and they're running out of time. So this is, as you suggest, Anna, all being done for election purposes, but also the public is getting quite tired of the fact that there's all talk and very little delivery. As Jenny says, this is now mired in the courts. The Rwanda plan is going to the Supreme Court. It was turned by deemed illegal by the Court of Appeal. I can't see anyone taking off on a plane before the next election.
And the Rwanda plan has already cost us £140 million for nothing. So talk about vote winners. I mean, imagine how much better that money could have been spent at a time of national crisis. I think the government should have a higher opinion of voters than thinking that this kind of gimmicky gesture politics is going to be enough to make people think, oh, yes, we'll vote Conservative if they're doing this.
But, Jenny, one thing, there is the £6 million a day that is being spent, you see. That is a key...
That's what the barge is for.
That is for but apparently the barges are going to save that much money either.
But we need... If the government was serious about this, they would be clearing the backlog, so we wouldn't need the barges. The reason why there are barges is because we are not processing these claims fast enough. And yes, there are lots of claims, but the backlog is enormous and avoidably enormous. It's because of mismanagement in the Home Office. But it's much easier to say, oh no, we're going to have a big ship that's a symbol of us doing something, than actually get down to the nitty-gritty of the problem and clearing the backlog.
Yeah, well, you say that, but there's staff shortages in many areas, so that might also be the problem.
Well, let's spend £140 million on recruitment then, instead of Rwanda.
Moving on to the FT and Tata Motors. A win for Somerset, it would appear. Aptly timed, also possibly ahead of the by-elections.
Well, 2 days, but exactly 2 days ago. This is down the road from Somerton and Frome, where there is a by-election happening.
Half an hour away, we're told.
Well, it looks like the Lib Dems might win that one, but we have to wait and see. I think that the government's in for probably a bit of a hammering on Thursday, generally. Now, but this is good news for the UK. Tata setting up a gigafactory in the UK to make batteries for Jaguar Land Rover cars. Apparently, we won it from Spain. They do want 500 million from the Treasury in terms of subsidy for this.
Is that the figure
that is what it's being touted at. But the thing is, you've got to put this in some perspective, because you look at the Inflation Reduction Act in the US. Joe Biden is spending billions on gigafactories and hydrogen and battery storage and all of these things, and we need to do what we can as well to attract investment. So this is good, 9,000 jobs. I think it's a step in the right direction. And let's not forget that British Volt went bust not so long ago, so we do need to invest in giga capacity if we are going to decarbonise and phase out diesel and petrol vehicles by 2035.
And this is another tick for one of Rishi Sunak's pledges that he wants to get growth going, with British Volt going bust in January. This is supposed to be the death knell for the UK tech industry. Sunak wants to reinvent this country as a tech superpower. This is all going to be looking very good. And this is 9,000 jobs, and they're good jobs. They'll be well-paid jobs. They're jobs that bring know-how into the country. However, it is very expensive, if the detail on this is to be believed, in terms of the subsidies, and not necessarily sustainable for the future of the battery business in the UK.
Yeah. Jenny, why don't you do the metro for us? This highly controversial court case, the abortion mother who lied about how far along she was and actually took abortion pills between 32 and 34 weeks pregnant, which is well outside the legal limit, isn't it?
Yes, and the legal limit is 24 weeks, with exemptions when the mother's life is at risk. The appeal judges said that this was about compassion. I think this is the right decision. I think abortion needs to be decriminalised. I think it should not be the case that it is best for society that this woman goes to jail. She has 3 children. Giving birth to a baby at 32 weeks who does not survive is a completely harrowing experience. I think she's been through a lot. She did the wrong thing. I think she has been punished. It's good that she's been convicted. I don't think she needs a jail term, and I think it should be decriminalised.
I agree with Jenny that it's good that she's been convicted. I don't agree that it should be decriminalised. In fact, far from it. I think, actually, it does puzzle me that people are saying that this should not be a criminal issue. Because what are we saying here? Are we saying that 40 weeks plus, when a baby is born, that we would actually believe in infanticide? Because, frankly, we wouldn't kill newborn babies. And what we're saying here is between 30 to 34 weeks, a baby can survive at 24 weeks, which is why we have a law saying that it is illegal in exceptional circumstances to not go beyond 24 weeks.
Nobody's saying that you should have an abortion at 32 weeks.
But this person...
No, people are saying she should not have been given the means to provide it, but that she herself, the idea of her going...
But she lied to get the pills, right?
She did lie to get the pills. There should be better checks, but it was in the pandemic and it was in exceptional times. This is an exceptional case.
But there are some
and the idea that people are doing this willy-nilly is just...
But, Jenny, there are some people, including some leading MPs, that have said that this should have never happened. There should be compassion, it should be decriminalised. I totally disagree.
Well, I think I think nobody has an abortion at that late stage. Nobody has an abortion at 24 weeks or 18 weeks, likely. It's an extremely harrowing thing to
sure it
pass a baby of that size at that gestation. So I think it's just a tragedy, and the idea that people should be going to prison for it is completely wrong.
Well, there's certainly been calls for reform of what are now, it seems, arcane laws, anyway, even if you don't believe in what you're saying about decriminalisation. Lots more still to come in the next part of our programme, including the record heat continuing in Europe. We will be discussing that in just a moment.
Well, people are still going. I was just talking to Scott Dunn literally 2 minutes ago. They were taking bookings yesterday for Spain, leaving today. So you heard it here. It's not putting people off.
What about if it's too hot? Can you cancel and claim that money back?
No. What we need, I mean, be careful what you wish for, but the only way you would be able to claim your money back is if the Foreign Office deem a destination unsafe to travel to. So that would be those red alerts that we became so used to during the pandemic, and I don't think anybody wants to go back to those. But no, you're not covered, and even if you have travel insurance, a heatwave is a force majeure and it is not covered by insurance. Forest fires and those kind of natural disasters would be covered, but only if you've got natural disaster cover. So check if you're going anywhere near any potential forest fires.
People don't have that sort of cover.
No, it would be something, an add-on that you'd need to get. So, Yeah, it's if you're with a tour operator, obviously you could speak to the tour operator if you're worried about the heat and look for an alternative destination. That is, of course, the joy and the reassurance of travelling with an operator or with a travel agent, is that you do have that extra reassurance if things do go wrong or if you're worried. You know, sensible precautions. If you are going to live like the locals do, go out before 11 o'clock. If you want to go out sightseeing, try and get there earlier when it's cooler and there's less crowds. Take wide-brimmed hat, loose linen, cotton clothing, or even performance sportswear can help in those extreme temperatures. SPF 50, a refillable water bottle. You can freeze water bottles and sleep with them under your pillow or under your duvet if you're struggling to sleep at night. Don't open the windows. If you want to go abroad and you really don't want that kind of heat, then Europe is heating up over the summer. But there are alternatives. Northern France, you've got food, you've got art, you've got great golf courses, could be a great alternative. Or Scandinavia. A colleague on the desk has just come back from a family holiday on the Danish Riviera. 21 degrees, beautiful, had a lovely time, lots of great food. Of course, there's the lakes. You could go island hopping around Finland.
Welcome back. You are watching our press preview with me, once again, Jenny Kleeman and Ali Miraj. Welcome back to both of you. Jenny, to the Telegraph we go now. This is Nigel Farage and his bank account. Bring us up to date with what he's done and what they have said.
This is a story that's been rumbling on for a while. He says that nobody will allow him to have a bank account. His banks responded with, he doesn't have enough money to meet the thresholds to bank with us. This is Coutts, which is a bank that specialises in people of high net worth, I believe it is called. But he asked for some disclosure from the bank. He asked for some paperwork from them. And those internal documents that were revealed to him suggested that the reason why they didn't want him to bank with them was because of his views, because he is seen, as it says in the pull quote here, as xenophobic and racist, and that it offered a reputational risk to the bank. He's apparently written something in the Telegraph where he accuses Coutts of lying about the real reason he was cut off. Obviously, it would have hurt his pride very much for him to have been told that he was cut off from this very exclusive bank because he didn't have enough money. There are a lot of people who will be really disturbed, though, by the idea that anyone, because of their political beliefs, can not be entitled to having a bank account. But Coutts is a business, a private business. They are entitled to say that they don't want to be working with people. But if this is the reason, this is something that will give a lot of people pause because, you never know. It could be you that's next that has opinions that people don't like and that people want to stop you from having a bank account with. So the details of this are interesting, whatever you think of Nigel Farage.
I mean, is it different because it's Coutts and if other high net worth individuals decide to pull their money because he's associated with it? I mean, he is seen as xenophobic and racist, as you said. He is considered by many to be a disingenuous grifter. Being associated with Nigel Farage represents a material and ongoing reputational risk to the bank. They're entitled to that view, aren't they?
Well, is it really a reputational risk to the bank in the sense that, look, every bank in the City of London will be making assessments every day about reputational risk. Would have been a reputational risk about this particular thing. No one would have known that Nigel Farage is a customer of this particular bank.
I'm sure he would have told people.
I don't think
he would have been very
I don't think it would have come out at all. I mean, look, I've known Nigel Farage for a very long time. We disagree on Brexit, but frankly, I don't agree with his views, but he's not what I think that Coots. But they're entitled to come up with their view. But quite frankly, this is a person who is leading a political party in the UK. He was not convicted of anything. He was not charged with inciting violence or hatred towards anyone. You're talking about a major political figure. I find this deeply concerning. Very, very concerning. I mean, this is saying here, according to the bank's own records here, that this person does not align with our values. Well, this is quite worrying, because if a bank is going to deny someone, which is effectively a human right of having a bank account here, and the guy can't even now get another bank account, supposedly, I find this deeply disturbing. And Nigel Farage himself says that we are going to be moving to this situation, if left unchecked, we will sleepwalk towards a China-style social credit system in which only those with the correct views are allowed to fully participate in society. I do find it worrying.
Yeah, but that might be a bit inflammatory.
No, but the thing is that we've got to remember that when this story came out, and this is where I think that the bank should actually clarify this position, we were led to believe that it was because he didn't have enough money.
Well, that was after, wasn't it?
That was the argument.
Effectively the day two story.
That was the argument given, right? But now we find out that it's actually not to do with that.
Yeah. Jenny, we're going to move on. Sorry, I've got lots back in. I do want to get to the Daily Mirror. Burning up, a child carried from their blazing home. The inferno temperatures sweeping across Europe.
Terrifying picture. The same child is pictured on the front of the FT.
Yeah, this is Greece, isn't it? Yeah,
yes, and there are lots of people who are thinking about the holidays they've booked and thinking, maybe I can't go on holiday in Europe anymore. This is real. This is happening right now. What worries me about this, I mean, there's so much that's worrying about this, but there is a sense of hopelessness, I think some people feel when they see images like this. And we mustn't feel that there is nothing we can do. We just are going to need to adapt and change.
OK. Jenny and Ali, thank you both very much indeed. Thank you. See you for more, obviously, through the 11. Now let's check out the weather.
Warm memories wherever you go. The weather, sponsored by Qatar Airways.
Well, it's not exactly burning temperatures here. The next few days will bring showers to the UK and Ireland, some heavy, before wind and rain return for the weekend. Most places will start Wednesday fine, though, if a little chilly. Chilly in the far northwest, but there will be a few showers around. They'll develop more widely through the morning, some heavy. Much of Wales and southern England, though, will stay dry. In between the showers, some good sunny spells. Parts of central and eastern England may be slow to brighten, and it will be a little bit warmer than today for most of us.
The weather, sponsored by Qatar Airways.
Yes, feels like autumn, doesn't it? Now, Sky News at 11 is next. We'll have more on Jaguar Land Rover's expected announcement of their gigafactory.